Hello, I'm Betsy Ross. Welcome to this special edition of Healthline. Caring for family and friends during their final days can be stressful and overwhelming. Well, today we're going to be taking a look at hospice care and the programs and the services that are available to help make this journey for our loved ones filled with respect, dignity, and compassion. We are pleased to announce that this program is being brought to you by the St. Elizabeth Hospice Program. It's all coming up next on Healthline, brought to you by the Northern Kentucky Medical Society. The St. Elizabeth Hospice began taking patients back in 1980. It was the first hospice program to service Northern Kentucky for some 20 years. It's been taking care of the terminally ill in our community during that time. Well, today we are visiting the new inpatient facility on the Edgewood campus, and our first guest today is Judy Schneider, the manager of St. Elizabeth Hospice. Judy, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for coming.
Let's just talk about the whole idea of hospice before we take a look at the campus. We'll be making a tour here in just a little bit. But exactly what do we mean by the term hospice?
Well, hospice is a concept of care. It's not just a facility like this place. It's the care that we give to patients at the end of their life through that final journey that they take. We incorporate the care for not only the patient but their family. And that's what makes hospice so different from other types of health care, is that we try to incorporate that care to include all the family members.
I think that one thought or one misconception that a lot of people have is that only cancer patients go to hospice.
You know, we have probably about 65% of our patients are cancer patients, but over the last 10 years we've expanded that, and hospices are seeing many more end-stage diseases. So any disease that can come to an end stage, such as heart disease, kidney disease, those patients are in our program also.
You talked about having the family involved in this, but there are more things that you deal with, both the family and the patients, other than just their physical care. There are other issues that you deal with too.
Right. It takes a team to do this, but we have psychosocial, spiritual interventions that we deal with the families. We try to help them cope with the things that they're going through. Teach them care, how to care for a patient at home, because these are not medical people. So there's a lot of things, shortcuts, things that we know to do that would make it easier for the family to be able to care for this patient at home and keep them at home. And that's our goal, is to be able to keep the patient at home.
One word that we hear a lot talking about hospice, we hear the word palliative. Now, what does that mean? Really, how does that figure into the care here?
Palliative care is symptom management. It's palliating the symptoms at end of life. And mainly what we do is we're focusing on the care of the patient and not cure any longer. Most of these patients have had many, many treatments, and now they're opting for symptom management instead of aggressive cures for their terminal diseases.
You mentioned about the team approach here and how you deal with other issues. You literally do have a team here working with the patients and the families. Talk about the different people that you have on staff who will be working with the families.
It takes a large team to do this type of care. So we have our nurses, our RNs, who are called case managers. They go out into the home, they see the patients, they admit the patients, they teach the family the care that they need to provide in the home. We have a chaplain that goes and sees all of the patients to help them with spiritual issues. And if they don't have any spiritual issues, they're just there to visit and to be a support to them. Our social worker goes into the home and she helps them with financial issues, does counseling with the family, with children in the family, And then we have our volunteers. They're a wonderful part of our program. We have about 100 volunteers who actually go into the homes and help with care. They do a lot here on the inpatient unit also. And then our nurse aides who do activities of daily living, bathing, hair, those kind of things, change the bed, do even housekeeping in the home to help the family and to make the patient more comfortable.
And you mentioned that the goal is to try to keep them at home, but sometimes the decision has to be made that they come to the inpatient facility. First question, who makes that decision? Is that a doctor's decision, family decision, a combination?
It's really a combination of people who make this decision. Most of the time, it's the patient who decides that they don't want to stay at home. Maybe they feel their care is too much for their family. There's certain criteria to come into the unit. A lot of times it's symptom management that the family's having difficult managing at home. So we'll bring them into the inpatient unit, manage that symptom, and get them back home because that's our goal. Sometimes patients do not want to die at home. So the last couple days of their life, they'll come here to the inpatient unit. So it's a combination. We need an order from a physician, but it's a combination.
You know, even though we are in the middle of the St. Elizabeth Hospital campus, this facility really feels like a living room or someone's home. Tell us about how you accommodate the families as well as the patients here.
Well, we're very proud of this facility. We listen to our families and the patients who we've had over the years, and the things that they wanted was open space, green space. So what we have here is our family lounge. It's very large. We have families that come in and have family dinners here. We have a counseling room. We have a children's room that when children come to visit, and we really encourage that, that they have a place to go. There's a video and video games and toys in there to keep them occupied while the rest of the family are visiting. And then we have our inpatient unit. We also have our home offices are here. So our nurses work out of here, so they're seeing the patients at home, but when they come here, it's convenient for them to go see the patients here also.
You touched on the need for volunteers and how vital they really are to help you with your mission and to go out. It's volunteers, donations, really a combination that really keeps this hospice going.
Absolutely. This hospice was built by our community through the donations that people give on a daily basis to our Hospice Foundation, and especially through the generosity of the Carol Ann and Ralph V. Hale Foundation, U.S. Bank Foundation. They gave the large donation that helped us complete this building and even add on. We're already adding on.
And you just opened. I was here for the groundbreaking, or for the opening here this spring, and all of a sudden now you're expanding again.
Right. We're opening 4 more beds the end of the month, so we're really pleased with that.
Well, Judy, you had quite a crowd here for the grand opening this spring. It's obvious something that this community has really embraced, and thank you so much for the information you've given us today. And we'll be back with more right after this.
Practice does make perfect. Something she'll understand more and more over time. Like how experience matters when choosing a heart program. At St. Elizabeth Medical Center, we've performed over 10,000 open heart surgeries and saved countless lives. Numbers like that add up to something she can understand today, and that is that her dad's back in her life. St. Elizabeth Medical Center, how medicine should be.
Let these past Northern Kentucky heroes be an inspiration to your success. I'm Charlie Coleman, host of Northern Kentucky Sports Legends on ICN 6. I feel it's important to remember our past as we face the future. Each week, we feature a guest who will bring back memories for some and teach others about where we all come from. Join me each week for Northern Kentucky Sports Legends, only on ICN 6.
even though we are here at a hospice facility, most of the hospice care is given at home when the patient can stay at home. And here to talk about home hospice care is Mary Clegg. She is a home hospice nurse. Mary, we think about doctors, nurses, everyone being here at the facility, but how do you transfer the treatment that's offered here into someone's home?
Well, the nurse usually is the first person that goes into the home, and she assesses the situation. She looks at everything, and she works up a plan with the family, with the patient, and she uses the resources of the other individuals to help her through it.
How do you put together the team approach at the home?
It's quite a natural flow. We've all got our phone numbers, our cell and page numbers, and it's just the approach that we use to be very holistic, to support the family emotionally, physically, with medical equipment, whether it's needing to bring the bed into the home or the over-the-bed table. It's just very supportive of the family and the patient.
How do you work with the families to get this set up?
Usually we try to schedule our visits so that as much family is there as possible, so that we are teaching them all at once, so that the information comes right from us.
When a family faces something like this, and let's face it, it's difficult no matter who you are or whether the family is dealing with this at home or whether the patient is here at the hospice facility. How do you talk to the families, or what do you counsel them? What suggestions do you have to make sure that the families get the most out of this hospice facility and the hospice care at home?
We just really help them with approaching it one day at a time, and to getting their rest, to still taking care of themselves, and to use the resources that we can provide. We look at their medications, and we're just constantly reevaluating everything about the situation. If the patient's condition has changed, if they need to move from an upstairs bedroom to a downstairs, it's just always very individual, and that's why it's so wonderful that we go into the home once or twice a week as nurses and the other caregivers as well.
And you suggest that families should really think about hospice maybe sooner rather than later.
It's a very, very difficult decision for families to make and for patients to make for themselves. But it is a revocable decision if people change their mind. Typically, people do wait too long. If they can get started, they can really live their life to the fullest, and we can really work on the symptom management and making the patient as comfortable as possible.
And you try to keep them as home as long as you can.
Yes, most people would prefer to be in their own home.
Mary, thank you so much for being with us and explaining the home hospice program.
Thank you, Betsy.
And we'll be back with more right after this.
And we were unaware of what hospice, the internal workings of hospice and what it was all about. But those people sat down with us, and you would not believe how comforting they were in trying to explain to us what the best situation was for our family, to help not only mom and dad get through their situation, but help the other family members deal with what the ultimate result was going to be. We first were indoctrinated as to what hospice was about, and it became apparent that there was not one or two people helping us, there was a whole army of people helping us. And they became intimately involved in our family on a first-name basis almost from day one. And I just can't tell you enough about how much that meant to our family.
Considering LASIK? Consider Halpin Knoll Laser Eye Center, a TLC Laser Eye Center's associate. Halpin Knoll's entire staff, technology, and purpose is focused on one thing, improving your vision with LASIK. And Halpin Knoll makes LASIK clearly affordable with 0% financing for 18 months. LASIK in Greater Cincinnati has never looked so good. Call Halpin Knoll today at 859-341-4525 or visit tlcvision.com to schedule your free consultation. Halpin Knoll Laser Eye Center, your vision source.
We continue our conversation now here at the St. Elizabeth Hospice. And hospice care doesn't have to necessarily end with the death of the family member or the loved one. And here to talk about the bereavement process and some of the facilities and some of the programs that are available here is James Ellis. He is the grief counselor here at the hospice. James, when do you get involved in the process? When do you contact family members, or do you wait until the loved one, the family member, has passed on before you get involved?
My role is basically to follow up with families after they've experienced the death of their loved one and providing grief support. But I actually get on board when the patient comes into our program. As the team is strategizing on how best to provide care, I listen to how the family interacts, how they're reacting from the nurses and the social worker and chaplain. I get a sense of what's normal for this family, for all the families, as best I can. And then that helps me understand how I can best help families after the death. So actually, I will follow up with all our families. I and a lot of volunteers and help will follow up with all the families in providing grief support after the death, and we do that for 13 months at least after the death.
I guess, as you mentioned, every family is different, so you have to look at it case by case. But do most families, do they decide to just kind of handle it on their own? Do they take advantage of the programs here? How do they handle it?
I would say a large majority of families can handle and work with their own grief with their systems of help, the church, families, friends. But there are a certain amount of people that just need extra help. We contact every family in our program by phone, by letter, through various mailings, just to let them know we're here. Through phone calls, we may find out that they need extra help. And of course, there are those that call in for help, and that's where we provide the extra help that I'm here to do.
Let's talk about that extra help. You have several programs for different needs, different ages. Talk about some of the programs that are offered here.
Okay, well, first of all, I have found that support groups are a wonderful tool for helping people. For one thing, it helps them understand they're not alone. And we try to normalize the grief response. It feels so abnormal that people are amazed that what they're experiencing is normal. So we use groups. And as you mentioned earlier, everyone's different. And so the relationship to the person who died causes a different set of issues for people to wrestle with. So we have different groups for different people who have had different relationships. For instance, we have what we call our Journey Through Grief. It's sort of our flagship support group. It's for adults who have lost a loved one. And that's sort of a general class that we try to help people understand grief. We also know that adult daughters tend to have a specific set of needs that's different than anybody else. So we have started a group for adult daughters who have lost a parent that we focus on their specific issues that tend to be significantly different than other kinds of loss. We also have a group for retired aged widowers. Men, as you might be aware, typically don't do groups, but they still need help. And so we've started a group for retired aged men we help them do what they like to do, is eat and talk. So we meet for breakfast to give them a chance to chat. And in the meantime, while they're there in that environment, then they get to do their grief work in bits and bytes, because they'll talk to me about their wife 30 seconds, 2 minutes, and then go on to another subject. And it seems to work quite well. We average 30 men on a monthly basis for this. One of the primary groups that we have is the STARS group, which is our kids' grief program. And we're doing that in conjunction with Linneman Funeral Home. And we all provide a special setting for children, school-age children, in which they can be with kids their own age in an environment that is safe, that is supportive, that helps them understand that they're really okay in their grief. And so that program has been going now for 10, 11 years now. We're in our 11th year.
And you have a program called HOPE for parents.
Yeah, that's a program that's, most of these programs have been offshoots. I started out with the 6-week program for general loss, and then each needs as they arise, we sort of meet to the needs by starting new groups. So the Parents' Hope is helping overwhelmed parents endure, is specifically for parents who have lost an older child. In the Cincinnati metro area, there are a number of groups for infant loss, but there's not too many groups for parents who've lost school-aged, young adult, teens, even middle-aged children. So we started a group for that clientele because it just wasn't here in northern Kentucky. And it started out of a parent who attended STARS, who had a college-age son die, and then she brought her 16-year-old daughter, and she kept saying, we need a group for my kind of loss. And so because of her insistence and the fact that other parents were calling in, we decided to start a group for parents. And so that's been going, again, for years, and we meet once a month, and we have our own webpage, and Chambers and Grubbs Funeral Home has actually helped us with that program, and so we're able to start reaching out into various groups, like I said, with the specific loss to meet specific needs, whereas they may be just wandering on their own.
And you mentioned that there's so many people who have these needs, might not even realize it until they get into the process. And even though you are here at St. Elizabeth Hospice, anyone can be part of these groups.
Oh, yes. In fact, a large percentage of the people who participate in our groups are from the community. What we're finding is that our hospice families get a lot of support from the point they come into the program. They get grief support as well as physical care. And so we wanted to reach out to the community with our groups. And so all of our groups are open to anyone. We're targeting the northern Kentucky area, but if somebody from Cincinnati calls and asks, we allow them to participate, even though there are groups up there. But we want to be a grief resource center for the community, for the northern Kentucky community, so that we can help as many people as possible. And groups allow us to do that, to reach out to more people than I can individually.
Well, James, you have such a calling, and you really have such a great service here. Thank you so much for being with us and explaining all of this to us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And as James mentioned about volunteers, volunteers are a very important part of the hospice program. We'll be back to talk more about that right after this.
Experience can make a life-saving difference. So from the time she was diagnosed, she sought care from one of the nation's most highly rated hospitals, St. Elizabeth Medical Center, for not only the innovative cancer treatments and comprehensive care she needed, but also the support from one of the region's most experienced team of specialists to bring her back to her kids and a future that looks picture perfect. St. Elizabeth Medical Center, how medicine should be.
Considering LASIK? Consider Halpin Knoll Laser Eye Center, a TLC Laser Eye Center's associate. Halpin Knoll's entire staff, technology, and purpose is focused on one thing, improving your vision with LASIK. And Halpin Knoll makes LASIK clearly affordable with 0% financing for 18 months. LASIK in Greater Cincinnati has never looked so good. Call Halpin Knoll today at 859-341-4525 or visit tlcvision.com to schedule your free consultation. Halpin Knoll Laser Eye Center, your vision source.
Don't get eaten alive by credit card debt. Don't get eaten alive by collection agencies. If you have at least $5,000, $10,000, or $50,000 or more in debt, you need to stop the financial bleeding. So call Debt Group now. Debt Group doesn't work for the credit card companies. Debt Group's national network of attorneys works for you and negotiates your debt down to a fraction of what you owe. Now you can stop those harassing collection calls once and for all. Having a Debt Group attorney in your corner protecting your rights will give you the peace of mind you deserve. Eliminate your credit card bills, medical bills, eliminate your personal loans, and we can reduce it all into one affordable monthly payment. You can avoid bankruptcy and save thousands of dollars in the process. Call Debt Group now and don't get eaten alive. Call now for a free debt reduction consultation. Call 888-646-6318. 888-646-6318.
We've been hearing throughout this program about just how important that volunteers are to the hospice program. And here to talk about the volunteers and the role that they play here at St. Elizabeth Hospice is Debbie Holler, and she is the volunteer coordinator. And I think, Debbie, when we think about hospice, we think about the professionals, we think about the doctors and the nurses. But what kind of roles do the volunteers play here?
The volunteers work in every part of our program. They can come here to the inpatient unit. They can help bathe, feed, turn, any hands-on care that they're willing to do under the direction of the nurse or the nurse assistant. They can also go out into the homes. Our program is mostly home care based. Mm-hmm. They go out and give the caregiver a break. It's hard to be a caregiver 24/7, so they can go out and they'll stay with the patient, sit with the patient, and whether they can play cards with them or whatever the patient's able to do. They'll stay for 3 or 4 hours at a time, maybe once or twice a week, and let the patient's family go out and go to the grocery, take a nap, get their hair done, whatever they want to do. They also can, we go to nursing homes. They visit patients at nursing homes. They can do clerical work if they don't want hands-on care and patient contact. We have lots of filing and charts to make up. They can always do that here too. They also do, they do gardening here on the unit. They pull weeds, they cut the flowers, whatever needs to be done. They also do sewing. We have a sewing group, and they do what we call pillow pals.
Now, let's talk about this. This is a great little program.
These pillows are made for the children or grandchildren, any child that would like one. The patient's hand is traced by probably the social worker or the nurse, somebody that's been in contact with the patient. Mm-hmm. And they usually make this out of something that means something to the patient, a flannel shirt that's been worn around the house a lot, something that the child has seen a lot. Then we have a lot of material that we give to the child, and they get to pick out what they like. Some, we have Spider-Man and, all the, any cartoon characters. So they pick out something that means something to them, and then these are put together by the volunteers.
When you volunteer, or you think that you want to volunteer, how do you know that you're going to be a good volunteer? Because this is such a special calling here to work in hospice. And I know you have to go through some training before you can actually get involved and volunteer.
Well, the requirements are very, very simple. It's just, hopefully it's something, a person of a very giving nature that just wants to give back to the community, or if they've had somebody that goes through our program. And we have training. We do 16 hours of classroom training, and then we ask them to do 4 hours on the unit to do some hands-on care. That gives them a little bit more training with that. If they don't find something in the classroom training that strikes them that they want to do, they can try every aspect, and I'll put them with another volunteer, and they can go through it and try to find something that that strikes them and calls them.
And I'm sure you're always looking for volunteers as well.
Yes, we are. We are all the time.
They do great work here. Debbie, thank you for everything that you do to recruit them, and thank all the volunteers who really make this place work so well, and the volunteers who are so compassionate to these families. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
And that'll do it for this edition of Healthline. Want to thank our special guests for today, Judy Schneider, Mary Clegg, James Ellis, and Debbie Holleran, and of course our sponsor for this program, St. Elizabeth Hospice, here on the campus of the St. Elizabeth Medical Center. Thank you for being with us today. I'm Betsy Ross. Join us next month for another edition of Healthline, brought to you by the Northern Kentucky Medical Society. Hello, I'm Betsy Ross. Welcome to this special edition of Healthline.